Okay, hello everybody. Hello community. Welcome back. Or if it's your first time, welcome to my channel. I apologize. I am trying to do a video a month, as you all may know. I just had to put my mascara back, sorry. For the month of February is short, as many of you all may know. So this is likely going to be in the beginning of March, but I'm probably going to do something at the end of March, so not that anybody necessarily cares, but anyway. My video idea for this month was I wanted to do a casual comparison and contrastion of Red, White, and Royal Blue, Heated Rivalry, Tu Mamá También, and Challengers, all in one. We'll see how this goes. The perfectionist in me would have wanted to watch all of these things like very closely and take notes, but this idea kind of came to me spur of the moment a little bit. I didn't necessarily have time to like go back and rewatch all these things, but it's been on my mind how all of these works maybe sort of intertwine, and also how some of them just kind of suck. No offense. We'll get into what I think sucks. Spoiler alert, I think Red, White, and Royal Blue was not the best piece of queer art that I've seen, but whatever. So, yeah, let's just get started into it. So, basically, we have Heated Rivalry here, right? And in watching that, I mean, I remember, when they were sort of dropping the episodes by piecemeal, it was like I was rewatching those earlier episodes because I had nothing else. They didn't give me anything else. But then after we had gotten more and more, I stopped rewatching it as much. I don't know, maybe I guess I just feel like I didn't have the time, and I honestly haven't felt called to rewatch the last episode. I have watched it and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really good. But I know some people, it scores very high in rewatchability, which I think is actually a very important metric to assess something by, whether or not you feel like it's accessible enough to rewatch, or comfortable enough, or you just appreciate it enough to rewatch it. So obviously, I think a lot of us would agree that Heated Rivalry is very much up there in the terms of just its storytelling and the story in general. You can say, oh, it's just smut, and that's why you guys are... No. There's actual beauty and chemistry and tension within the story that makes it interesting to watch. You're not just like skipping towards the spicy scenes. Like, you actually just want to watch the show. Like, you actually are invested in the story and want to keep watching these two characters throughout their story, as I know they're coming with another season and all of that. Another thing, I know the Heated Rivalry was based on a book. So is Red, White, and Royal Blue. So you'd think that typically, like, I haven't read either book series, and I probably should, but so I'm just going off based on the visual media that I watched it on. But typically you would think that something that is made from a book, like let's say Normal People, like something that's made from a book that is made and is adapted to screen, typically is done well. Obviously sometimes though people say, oh, it's not as good as the book, it's not as good as the book, whatever. Again, never read these books, so I can't say for sure what I think is better. But if we just take Red, White, and Royal Blue and compare that to Heated Rivalry, because on my TikTok I see these clips and scenes, that's why I wanted to watch both shows, right? You're interested in what happens. And the quality in Heated Rivalry, the cinematography, the parallels, the foreshadowing, things like that in the story, it makes it all just well and good for good storytelling. For Red, White, and Royal Blue, the story of a prince and the son of the president, which, by the way, why did they give Uma Thurman a southern accent like that? It just felt like the whole thing felt weird. But anyway, the concept is, I think, a good one and an interesting one. Cool, there's a story there. But first of all, we talk about cinematography and like production quality. It was just, maybe they just had a lesser budget. I don't know. But you could see like the CGI, fog or the vapor from their mouths when it was like supposed to be cold. It's like, why? It was just odd. And when it's supposed to be Christmas time at the White House, but it was like fully, there's a shot of the White House where it's like fully greenery and brush and bush, and you could tell that it was not winter, but they just had like a couple Christmas wreaths like photoshopped onto it or something. I don't know. It just made for, it felt like a bad Hallmark movie. Like, that's the difference here. That the Heated Rivalry felt like HBO, good quality. Yes, there's things to criticize, I'm sure there, but Red, White, and Royal Blue was just not it. It is not it, in my opinion, but people love it. People really, really seem to love it, and it does something to them. And I'm like, after watching Heated Rivalry, like, this is not it. This is not, I don't think, good storytelling. I don't think that the characters, or that the actors had as much chemistry as we saw in Heated Rivalry. I don't think that maybe some of them had the acting chops. It all, again, it just all felt like a very inorganic, an inorganic Hallmark movie, with just oddities mixed into it. They're also, when they're at the New Year's party scene, I could see, the appeal, but, there's a certain quality to movies that you can just tell that this is like not good quality. Like, it objectively on the outside has high quality because it has whatever lighting or whatever, but it's just actually just not good. You compare that to the club scene in Heated Rivalry. I do think it was a little goofy how, like, because when you're looking at it, when you see clips on your phone or something like that, it makes it seem like Shane is a bit farther away from Ilya. But when you watch the actual show, it's like, oh, he's like right there staring at him. It's like he's a little too close for. It's not like he's all the way across the room. Like, he's like right there looking at him. And then it just, with Red, White, and Royal Blue, it just felt like kind of like played out tropes, kind of cringy. I mean, sure, there's a campiness to it, and that's what I have seen. Like, it's so bad it's good, just like how campy it is. But it felt like they were trying to do something groundbreaking and like really risque. But in reality, Heated Rivalry just really beat them out on that. Like, it's like, oh, how quaint, I also just think, even during, because they follow this intimate relationship between the prince and then the president's son. I don't really think that they just had that chemistry to really make it like believable. I think it's funny how I don't know the actors' names, but the one who played the prince, like, he was crying like all the time. He always had tears in his eyes or something, And I think that he was a good actor. I just think that like the material and sometimes his scene partners just like, it didn't quite give what I feel like we wanted or needed. So sorry for the vagueness of it. That's why I'm saying it's a casual commentary, but like, if you know kind of thing. So, and then if we take a step back, now let's look at Tu Mamá También and Challengers, or I guess all four at the same time. So obviously, Tu Mamá También is different than, a Heated Rivalry and a Red, White, and Royal Blue, because it doesn't necessarily follow like these two people who are supposed to be in love. But it kind of does, though, actually. That's why I also bring in Challengers, because there's obviously Zendaya. There's the third person in the middle. Even in Heated Rivalry, there's, I forget her name, the girl that Shane dates. She's kind of in the middle a little bit. Obviously, we have Ilya with the other girl in the club scene in the middle a little bit, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So in Tu Mamá También, we have these, obviously there's also problematic things, I think, with the movie a little bit, because, there's just these two boys are in high school. So that's a little bit of like a weird thing going into it, just so you guys know. But it really, along the way, you're following this movie, and the side plot, this woman's just trying to like live her life to the fullest, because she, spoiler alert, she knows she's gonna die. And then she's like, F it, I'm just going to go hang out with these two guys on this road trip and try to find, I think it's called like Heaven's Mouth, this beach called Heaven's Mouth, which they said was fake, but it actually was a real thing. And it all kind of culminates to this point. There's basically a lot of this like sexual tension between the two male characters. All the while it's kind of like, oh, they're trying to get girls, they're trying to get the woman that is going on the trip with them, like that's their prize, that's the prize is the women, and then they get upset when like the other one is had sex with his girlfriend, the other guy had sex with his girlfriend, and it was like it's almost like this masculine like territorialness, and like I need to like have sex with all these women because that's cool. But then like basically one of the very last scenes towards the end of the movie is like them actually kissing each other and being intimate with each other. And the woman had alluded to that before, where it's like, why are you guys fighting when all you guys are just want to do is just say you're in love with each other? And they were just kind of like, what? But then towards the end, they actually, you can see it, and that chemistry, that chemistry alone as well, I think beats out Red, White, and Royal Blue. You could just really say I'm really hating on the lack of chemistry in Red, White, and Royal Blue. But here we have a movie that wasn't even necessarily 100% gear. I don't want to say it's not 100% gear, because it kind of was, but it wasn't necessarily initially framed that way. It kind of bubbles up under the surface, and you come to find that out. Whereas in Red, White, and Royal Blue, this is what you're supposed to expect, and it didn't quite deliver. So I think that's what makes Tu Mamá También also a very powerful movie, because it bubbles up under the surface, and then it's like, wow, their love and their chemistry for each other is just so good. It's so like, it felt like relieving to watch, because in a way it's like, oh, they actually love each other, and it's like liberating, and that's the whole point. It was like the message of liberation and being with someone and expressing your love, kind of like Heated Rivalry, where it's like, finally, we can be together. Obviously they're still kind of keeping it hush hush. It's just the parents, or Shane's parents, who know, but there is that obvious, and I think that's a very common trope in queer stories, because that's the society that we live in. It's like you can't for a long time, and even still today, you're supposed to kind of be more hush hush about, if you are queer, your love for another person who happens to be your same gender, or the queer community, or in the queer community, or what have you, right? And so I think that's what makes the Heated Rivalry and Tu Mamá También very compelling stories, and makes you really fall in love with the chemistry between the two characters. Now, with Heated Rivalry, they have, at least for now, we see, I haven't read the book, so sorry, but we see for now, in that last episode of the first season, there is sort of a happy ending. They do say that they love each other. They are honest about their feelings for once, and they verbalize it. It's not just physical. They're able to verbalize it, and they want to make a plan on how to come out to the world and be unapologetically in love with themselves and with each other, right? We also see that with, what's Francois's character? Scott, I think. Oh, shoot. I just watch these shows and I don't take down names, really. I'm so sorry. I think it's Scott and Kip. We see how he's able to let go of the societal pressure and just be like, hey, I'm in love with you, and show it to the world, right? And so it's a very like queer joy, queer happy storytelling in Heated Rivalry, in a way. I mean, yes, there's the trials and tribulations, there is toxicity in those relationships, but ultimately, as it ends, we do see a sort of healing and a joyful outcome of like acceptance and authenticity, right? And with Tu Mamá También, though, we don't see that. We see this chemistry that is compelling, this friendship that is compelling, and all the things that come with that, the immaturity, and it's like that being up to the challenge of like, are you going to step up to the plate and like be authentic and realize that your feelings, I guess, acknowledge your strong feelings. They do for that moment, right? That one night. But then it's heartbreaking ultimately, because, and this movie was released, I believe, in like the early 2000s. So it is a different era than Heated Rivalry. I guess that takes place, in like the late 2010s. So there is time that has changed and passed, but in so in that time of Tu Mamá También, they're not able to really accept it. Even though they have a friend who's gay and they accept their friend, they don't accept like themselves for that. They just kind of, it happened, and then they brush over it like it never happened, and then they never really speak again. They meet up one more time as awkward, as an awkward meetup, but then they never speak again. And the other lady's dead. Like, it is so sad. Like, that movie left me with like a hole in my chest, in my heart. Whereas Heated Rivalry doesn't necessarily do that. I think for a lot of people, it really made them upset, and it's like, oh, they're crying. But I think the way that the season ended was very fulfilling. As compared to all these other pieces of media. We also see Brokeback Mountain. How does that end? We have good chemistry with the characters. There's love. There's the stakes of like, oh, we can't be gay. It's not right in the society. We face physical violence, threats to our lives. And so it is very serious. And I don't know when that takes place, when Brokeback Mountain takes place, but it doesn't take place anytime soon, anytime in recent times. Yet, and then that story is also one of tragedy. That you see, it's not one of joy. And so there's that similarity with these films that were maybe made in the 90s, early 2000s, where these queer stories, there is joy, but then ultimately ends in tragedy. But now what we're seeing is movies that don't, even with Red, White, and Royal Blue. Even, albeit I feel like it was forced, and kind of inorganic, and kind of like a little like tropey. In the end, or I didn't feel like the stakes were high enough. I guess I didn't feel like the stakes were high enough for like the resolution that we got at the end. However, the resolution we got at the end was, hey, I'm going to love you unapologetically. We're going to be in love unapologetically. And we're going to show the world that, and that's whatever. And people are going to accept it, because people were already starting to accept it. People were coming out like in front of the palace and being like, hey, cool, you're gay, this is awesome. We love this. After their relationship was leaked, and people were trying to be like, stop, hush, hush, right? Now with Heated Rivalry, that's a rivalry. With Red, White, and Royal Blue, that was also a rivalry. But again, the stakes didn't feel as like authentic. It didn't pull me in as much in Red, White, and Royal Blue. It all felt kind of like forced and quick. The pace was very quick. However, it was like it also dragged on because it was like an over 2 hour movie. So it was just, the pacing was just interesting. But you think with the rivalry, there was one, but it just wasn't like as satisfying to watch it. I guess it kind of ended kind of quickly. But I guess you could say in Heated Rivalry, they kind of start, being lovers very quickly. So I don't know. I guess it could also be that Red, White, and Royal Blue was not a TV series. It was just made into a movie. So maybe they had less time to work with material. I don't know. I'm going to give them that benefit of the doubt. But listen, we have Brokeback Mountain, Tu Mamá También, and I haven't really talked about Challengers yet, but these are movies that do encapsulate stakes, that do encapsulate chemistry, joy, and tragedy. With Challengers, something that I thought was funny, I was like, oh, Tu Mamá También is like the original Challengers. Now it's not. It's like but it has obviously that similar love triangle, and it's really kind of like you have this woman here, and she's sort of here to like teach you something, but ultimately it's kind of like you want to just kiss your homie. Like at the end of the day, it's kind of like she's kind of showing you that like you think that she's the prize, and you are battling over her, but when really you kind of just want to be together, like the two dudes, because you see in Challengers, which has that rivalry, which is a heated rivalry. They're fighting for the girl. She's the tennis ball, back and forth. Who's gonna win? She's with him. She's with him now. And finally, at the end of the movie, even though she's kind of like manipulating and going back and forth between them, she just wants to see some good tennis, and she does. And at the end, when they they embrace each other, it's kind of the message from Tu Mamá También. It's like this woman is there. I think her name is Sophia. Sorry, I don't know names. I think her name is Sophia, but she literally said, basically, why are you guys fighting over all these girls and all this stupid thing, who basically who's what was in who's what, when it's really like you guys just want to kiss each other. And so maybe the fact that these themes are in media, I'm like, is this a common thing that like dudes experience? I don't know, no like shade or what, no judgment if it is, but I just find it a really interesting one where the woman is actually there to show you something about yourself. Not that she's the prize, but she is like the guide, the teacher, to make you realize, oh yeah, I really just want to kiss my friend. I really just actually am in love with my friend. But the stakes is like, oh, I can't. The society is like, oh, I can't do that, So I find those stories to be really compelling. In Heated Rivalry, is her name Sophie too? I don't remember her name. This is so bad. You guys are gonna be like, I'm a fake fan. I'm sorry. I don't remember these people's names. I just watch on the screen. That's probably bad. But yeah, she, I mean, there it's more of a jealousy thing, but it also is a jealousy thing, let's say, it's actually a jealousy thing in Tu Mamá También and in Challengers. It's all a jealousy thing, but underneath that jealousy, what is there? When I think Shane is definitely, he's trying to like explore his sexuality, he's trying to figure himself out. And then he comes to find that he doesn't really like, oh, it's Rose, that's her name, Rose Landry. He doesn't necessarily like to be he doesn't want to be with a woman. He liked being with a man, Ilya, better. But again, that shows, it like teaches him a lesson. With Ilya, it made him be like, dang, I really want Shane. Like I think I need to step it up more. Like I think I really do have strong feelings for him. So that it's just so interesting that we're seeing these tropes of the woman is more of like the teacher and the guide, and we're seeing this throughout media. Now in Red, White, and Royal Blue, there wasn't really that. And again, you can crucify me for my opinion on Red, White, and Royal Blue. I honestly think that Heated Rivalry, Challengers, Tu Mamá También, even Brokeback Mountain, even though I don't really ever want to watch that movie again because it was so sad, rank higher than that movie. In terms of quality, acting, storytelling, all of the above, right? So yeah, I think that it's just really interesting that we're seeing these themes across media, even though there's they're all different stories and they all tell a different story. But ultimately there are these overlapping themes in these sort of queer stories. Obviously there's tons of queer stories out there. I'm just comparing a couple. But I guess I just wanted to draw that casual comparison and contrastion. What is that word? Comparison and contrasting? I don't know. But yeah, I guess I really just want to come on here and say I think Tu Mamá También was a really, really beautiful work describing your true, authentic love for like who you are and what and who you actually love. People, places, and things, what you want out of life. It's a very beautiful movie. It's sad, but I'm gonna just not think about the last part. But even if you do think about the last part, it makes you think, okay, this is how it ended up for this people in this situation in the story. Do I want to follow in that footstep, or in their footsteps, or do I want to follow in the woman's footsteps where she was living life to the fullest and she was just kind of expressing love and physicality and exploration more authentically and more freely? Whereas the dudes who were younger, maybe the stakes weren't there for them because they weren't threatened with their lives at that time. So they were able to sort of like keep the trueness of their how they want to express their love, their true feelings at bay, seemingly for, I don't know, we don't get like a sequel, so seemingly for however long, because they say that they never come in contact. Doesn't mean that he doesn't fall in love with other dudes later on, but we just know that they don't ever come in contact again. So it shows you it's like that love, that authentic expression is precious. But same thing with Heated Rivalry. It didn't have to end in tragedy for us to know that love, that authentic expression of love is precious, and it can be joyful. And if you just communicate, we can work it out and it'll be okay. when he confesses that he loves Shane, that is one of the most beautiful cinematic things I've ever seen. Top tier acting, genuine. It was beautiful. Those characters were in love with each other, and you could see it. They did that quite well. But it didn't have to necessarily be behind. It was behind closed doors, but it's emerging. It's a process of emerging, coming out of the shell a little bit, So yeah, I mean, in Challengers, we don't know what happens after. We don't know if they become a throuple. We don't know if the two dudes become a couple. We don't know if they all never talk again. We just know that they embrace at the end. And I think that that's basically, I guess I can leave it there. That's the message that I find really important to draw between all of these pieces of work, is just to, I think we all just got to authentically express ourselves and authentically express our love and love freely, instead of pushing our love down into a box, because why would life be worth living if we're not going to love freely and openly and authentically? So great job, the writers, actors, directors on these pieces of work, except for Red, White, and Royal Blue. Maybe go back to the drawing board for that one. I know they're coming out with the second movie, so I will watch it, and I will. Maybe it'll be better. I don't know. I really was rooting for it. I do think that the story would be interesting. It just didn't have the same viscerality to it that I think that a story like that would really benefit from, to make it really a compelling story. But maybe not all things are meant to be compelling stories, right? Some things are just meant to be lighthearted and fun. So anyway, I'll leave it there. I thank you for listening to me ramble about these things, sort of not super coherently or organized, or in an organized way, but nonetheless, I wanted to get it out there. So yeah, peace. Love you guys. Bye.